Have you ever stopped to imagine the sheer energy, the raw nerve, and the massive vision it actually takes to build a business from absolutely nothing? It is a seriously daunting journey. And honestly, that brings us perfectly to this profound quote from the legendary management thinker Peter Drucker. He said, "Entrepreneurship is neither a science nor an art. It is a practice." Think about that. It isn't just about memorizing a textbook, and it's not just waiting around for a sudden flash of artistic genius either. It's a practice. It's fundamentally an active daily grind of navigating a crazy, volatile world, spotting new opportunities, and actually converting them into real value. So, welcome to this Explainer. Our mission today is to completely demystify exactly how this incredible practice of value creation has evolved over time. We're going to trace the massive shifts across human history, look at the very real people who totally changed our markets, and even peek inside the minds of founders to see how they actually operate day to day. All right, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with defining the Entrepreneurial Foundation, take a brief global history, look closely at the Philippine entrepreneurial journey, break down the mechanics of entrepreneurship, and finally, look beyond profit at social impact. Let's dive right in.
Part 1. Defining the Entrepreneurial Foundation.
Okay, think back to before money even existed. The economy of our civilization really started with nomadic tribes. But when they finally settled down to form agricultural communities, a huge shift happened. Because they were staying in one spot, people could actually specialize in crafts. Things like pottery, wool making, carpentry. These folks were essentially our very first farmer entrepreneurs. But to support their communities, they had to trade their surplus goods directly for other things they desperately needed to survive. This direct, one-for-one exchange, that's the barter system. It was literally the spark that ignited global trade. Now, as those communities grew, and merchants like Marco Polo started forging these massive, long-distance trade routes, bartering just became too complicated to maintain. You can't exactly carry a herd of sheep across a continent, right? This led to the development of money, which revolutionized absolutely everything and paved the way for capitalism. As this free, competitive market economy took hold, an 18th century businessman named Richard Cantillon introduced a concept that changed the game forever: the idea of risk-bearing. He argued that an entrepreneur was someone who exercised careful judgment to make a profit, even when faced with total, unpredictable uncertainty. Pushing forward into the Industrial Revolution, the drive for profit caused massive changes in how society functioned. We got the steam engine, the telegraph, wide-scale mechanization, but things really shifted in the early 20th century when the factory system was totally revolutionized by Fordism. Pioneered by the Ford Motor Company, this system of mass production solved a desperate need across industries. Everyone was asking, how do we manufacture goods in a cost-effective, hyper-efficient way? Fordism answered that, setting the stage for the modern global economy we know today.
Moving on to Part 2, a brief global history.
Track with me here on this timeline. We go from those early bartering tribes in the pre-1760s, exploding into the steam-powered Industrial Revolution up until 1945. Then, in the post-WWI era, things shift radically. War technology gets converted for civilian use, and pioneers like Steve Wozniak start creating affordable personal computers. The 1980s to the 2000s bring about this intense wave of globalization, completely tearing down economic borders. And finally, the year 2000 and onwards launches us straight into the digital age. We're talking artificial intelligence, blockchain, and gazelles. By the way, gazelles are those rapidly growing firms experiencing a massive 20% annual sales growth. It's just a constant, accelerating evolution.
But history isn't just eras and timelines on a page. It is driven by real human beings. Look at the real faces behind these massive international entrepreneurial firms. You've got Fusajiro Yamauchi starting Nintendo all the way back in 1889 Japan. You've got Steve Jobs in the US, Jack Ma in China, and Anthony Tan launching Grab in 2012 Malaysia. These visionary founders didn't just build companies, they were agents of change. They took new knowledge and turned it into global economic growth, crossing diverse borders to create phenomenal value.
Which brings us to Part 3, the Philippine entrepreneurial journey.
Imagine navigating these massive historical shifts, but specifically in the Philippines. Before colonizers even arrived, ancient ancestors were already highly active entrepreneurs, bartering rich natural resources like pearls and tortoiseshells for Chinese porcelain and silk. Eventually, they replaced barter with pilancitos, these little bead-like gold bits that acted as early currency. Then came over 300 years of Spanish rule, which was totally dominated by the restrictive Manila-Acapulco galleon trade. It served Spain's interests perfectly, but heavily stifled local exports. Yet, despite all that, fierce local entrepreneurs persisted, giving rise to 19th-century local industries like Casa Rojas. And eventually, the American era introduced a liberal free trade policy, igniting a massive boom in domestic exports and family-controlled business groups. And I love this because it brilliantly illustrates the human element of that local journey. Take in Gracia Cruz Reyes, fondly known as Aling Asiang, the mother of Filipino cooking. In the 1930s, right during that era of economic expansion, she didn't wait around for some massive factory to be built. She spotted an opportunity and transformed a simple weekend mobile canteen in Luneta into what would eventually become the Aristocrat restaurant. It's a lasting cultural brand and a true testament to the domestic entrepreneurial spirit.
Part 4. The Mechanics of Entrepreneurship.
So how exactly do these legendary founders operate inside their own minds and markets? Well, the individual opportunity nexus model explains it perfectly. It basically proposes that the economy is always in a state of disequilibrium. Things are never perfectly balanced, which means there are always gaps or problems to solve. An entrepreneur spots this gap and walks through 4 exact steps. First, they recognize and assess the opportunity. Second, they make the critical risk-bearing judgment to actually go for it. Third, they attempt to acquire the necessary resources. And fourth, they organize those resources into a highly innovative combination and strategy. They literally convert raw resources into something that offers superior value to society. And finally, Part 5, Beyond Profit, Social Impact. Because as we look to the future, the practice of modern entrepreneurship has fundamentally evolved. It's way past the simple traditional goal of just trying to get rich. What we're seeing today is the massive rise of social entrepreneurship. It's now a value-driven cycle. It starts right at the foundation by using creativity to solve direct public needs, which gives incredible customer satisfaction. This commercial success then acts as the fuel needed to tackle daunting, complex environmental problems. Instead of depleting resources, these modern companies protect them. And ultimately, this whole cycle creates jobs, pumps wealth into local economies, and lifts up the entire community's standard of living. Profit isn't the end goal anymore, it's the engine for social upliftment. And the real-world impact of this is undeniable. 20 to 30%. According to the data, that is the massive percentage of direct and indirect exports contributed by Asian small and medium enterprises alone. We're not just talking about massive global conglomerates here. These are local, often socially minded businesses that are driving true global competitiveness and generating serious national income. Well, we have covered a tremendous amount of ground in this explainer, right? All the way from the very first bartering farmers to modern tech-driven social enterprises. I want to leave you with this provocative thought to cap things off today. Knowing that entrepreneurship is a daily practice of value creation, are you looking at your environment's abundant resources with the mindset to solve a daunting social problem? The tools and the history are all there waiting for you. The real question now is, how will you apply this practice to leave your own lasting mark on society? Keep learning, keep observing, and most importantly, keep practicing.